everything's nice over here.
Just a swinging. What was that? Who sang that song?
Did you hit the go
there
button
was.
while I was saying that? That wasn't for everybody to hear. That was for just
Well,
us.
hey, once I hit the live button, you know the rule. No
Yeah, but you're
takebacks.
supposed to tell me I'm hitting the stupid button. And I mean, what if somebody hears me saying something evil or
Oh well. It's like,
they would have
look,
a different view of me.
I follow a rule. I don't say anything that I wouldn't put on a billboard. See?
I mean, I
That's
like
simple.
having Mike Echols, say stuff about me in Baton Rouge, and he doesn't think I know. I mean, I don't want him to actually know something and then, say something for
Well,
real. But
he's in the green room. He's got time to bail out and hit the end button and just cancel the call like you was never even here. So, we got to talk about this swinging deal. I don't want to spend much time on it, but folks may have seen some of the apparel and merchandise that we've actually launched on Bossier Watch, and some of it is making fun of golf and swinging. And I want to say that quote came directly from Tommy.
I don't know what it is about Bossier and quotes from politicians, regarding sex, but it's just something about Bossier that just brings, I don't know, just brings it out of politicians.
Well, what was that meeting? What was that meeting a few months ago with Kennedy where he said like Bossier's better than sex or something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, maybe there's something going on around here we don't know about, but I don't know. So we'll discuss that a little bit more and actually roll the video. But when we come out of the break here in just a few minutes, we're going to have our guest, Mike Echols, who is, what is he, District 14? Is that right? District 12, 14, one of those districts? I don't know.
Home of the Monrovians.
Yeah. So we're going to talk to him. And I've got some information to share about prescription prices, which dovetails right into, I think, some of the stuff we're going to talk to him about.
That's right. That's right. Something tells me he is the guy. If you have any questions regarding your prescription drugs, he is the know-all. I think he can tell you.
Is he like a drug dealer, drug pusher? Is he one of these drug rep guys or what?
Allegedly, he was on the city council of Monroe. So
okay.
I don't know. We'll find out. We'll ask that question.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and hit the countdown here in just a second. We'll go ahead and do that. And folks, y'all know the drill. I see we've got about 20-something people watching already. Val Baker, Judy Stewart, and the gang are all here. Y'all know the drill. We're going to be going for about 2.5 or 3 minutes. Y'all hit the share, like, text people, whatever. Let them know that if you have some drug questions, at least drug pricing, we're going to get into that with Mr. Mike Echols and whatever else we can talk about here in just a few minutes. What say you, Mr. Lowry? Shall I hit the countdown button?
Hit the countdown. Let's go.
Here we go.
If folks knew a lot of the back office on the politicians that they think walk on water, they would be shocked. There's an old wound from a knife in my back that just is giving me heck lately, and it's just really irritating, so I have to kind of wiggle around a little bit.
And I titled it, A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys.
Just, they feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
Some Republicans as well believe that government has the answers, and let me tell y'all something. I don't know anything government does well. Nothing.
And aren't there laws that say that you have public meetings so that the public can have accountability of their elected officials?
As a member of the media, I'm very concerned about what I've just heard.
Well, I'm not thinking Star Wars at all. I'm thinking zombie apocalypse. Oh, folks coming from the border down there?
Yeah, it's going to border. It's actually going to Mexico, the buses.
Doesn't mean they interpret it the same way that I do. For instance, the Second Amendment. I take it very literally that's been interpreted different ways in the court system, all the way up to SCOTUS.
We're still right now combined on both pages and YouTube at 264 people watching. That is amazing, folks. Through conscious shocking actions, which in turn would enrich sitting city council members Scott Irwin and David Montgomery Jr. In theory, you know, it's an every week thing. We got to double check and make sure it's like a miracle any of this actually works. This live broadcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Reach out to Julie Ferris. SmarterGeek, making technology easier. And folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. And here we are back. Drugs and swingers. What a night.
Drugs and swingers. I mean, okay, I got to see. I'm going to have to be careful here. I ain't even a politician. Why am I being careful? Yeah, drugs and swingers, the Bossier way.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's go ahead and we'll get our guest in if he's still there. He may have exited the building. Who knows? And we'll kind of, I guess we can get into the drug part of all this and what we actually mean. So hold on just a second. Let me click this button. Let me click this button. Let me click this and switch over his deal. And Mr. Echols, can you hear us?
Gentlemen, I may have signed up for the wrong podcast tonight. This feels like not a safe space.
It might not be. Your reputation may be tarnished forever.
Well, this is my third time to be on your show. I have won the official Cockroach Award, which I'm honored to finally have gotten that esteemed recognition. But the direction you're taking tonight's show may prevent me from being on future shows. It depends on where y'all take this thing.
Well, look, this is a show that primarily focuses on Bossier politics or politics that affect Bossier. And, it just so happens that one of our politicians, they invoked swingers in Bossier. And, we're going to cover that. And, I'd love to cover it and get Mike's take on it. I mean, I think it's classic. I don't know. Maybe Monroe has, or, there's that old saying, what is it? Funroe. Maybe Funroe has some historical reference like this. I don't know. Maybe y'all had a mayor that's done something like this.
You go back to the 1800s, Monroe was known as a fort and a place of somewhat ill repute, but we've cleaned up our reputation. We got a lot of good things going for us right now, and I cannot attest what's going on in Bossier Parish, but Monroe's got the right things happening right now. We've got a beautiful new major meta project that was announced just down the road about 15, 20 miles, and you're starting to see some of the benefits of that with contractors coming in and all these new people that are showing up to our beautiful city. So it's an exciting time to be from Northeast Louisiana. Obviously, the excitement though is heading over in Northwest Louisiana.
Well, they just had the grand opening of what's that deal called? Chasing Aces. It's one of those kind of Top Golf type golf deals, and it's a nice facility. It's right over there by Bass Pro Shops, Margaritaville. They've spent a ton of money and done a really nice job. But I got to say, I was a little taken aback when I got this message that our esteemed mayor, Mr. Tommy Chandler, had said this, and I didn't believe it really, except, well, we have the video of it. Would you be so brave as to embellish us for a few minutes, Mr. Echols, while we make fun of our mayor over here?
Gentlemen, I'm here at your leisure and look forward to whatever content you're producing tonight, as long as it's not at my expense.
Not too bad.
We will talk legislative, that boring stuff.
Sure.
But look, this salacious stuff is so much better.
Well, I know you want clicks, so I'm just here for the action. So whatever, I'm here at your pleasure.
All right, folks. Well, here we go. I'm about to switch the screens again, and this is our esteemed mayor, Tommy Chandler, who you know, look, I give him hell all the time, but Tommy is a nice guy. But this is kind of interesting, so here we go.
Thanks to Chasing Aces, we'll now have a community where everyone are swingers, and all the time is tea time. Thank you on a great job. Congratulations.
Well,
Well, he did get, he did get a little ovation there. What say you, Mr. Lowry?
I'm just wondering what Senator Kennedy and Mayor Chandler know that I don't know. I mean, I've lived here all my life. I,
I mean, he
I
was
had no
reading
idea.
he was reading a prepared statement, and Tommy, you did a fine job of that. So, I'm sure he meant it tongue in cheek, of course, but still, that's pretty funny.
Mike?
Oh
Mike doesn't even
no,
want, he doesn't
I
even
would
want to
just
touch
say that Senator, I do not want to touch it. I know that if Senator Kennedy was to give us a verbal epitaph on this situation, it would be more entertaining than a Senator Kennedy epitaph. So I'm going to leave his comments and quotes alone. I think he probably needs to work with his press secretary on new talking points. How about that?
That may be true. So, yeah, we'll leave the swinging and that part of it alone, and let's get straight into the drug fueled portion of our show with Mr. Mike Echols.
This is something I'm more relevant and both knowledgeable about is the drugs. I can do the drugs, the swinging, that not in my realm of conversation points.
Okay. So you had a bill pertaining to drugs and pharmacies, or how did that go? Because I saw the video you put it on your Facebook page. It was really good, and we could play it. We have it queued up and ready to play. I thought you did a wonderful job. Video was, and a little bit about that.
So I ran a bill, House Bill 264. It started in the House, really as a I call it a transparency bill. It was to make what the practices that happens in pharmacy benefit managers, and really this is a very shady section of the economy. If you look over the last 15, 20 years, prescription drug prices have done nothing but go up, up, and up. PBMs were brought about to help negotiate pricing and come up with a fair process for both health plans and members to receive reasonable prices on drugs. They were there to negotiate on their behalf. And what it has turned into is one of the most illicit, largest profit making schemes in the healthcare system in the history of our healthcare system. These are some of the most profitable, some of the most non transparent, and non accountable entities in the nation. They take tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars off the table in the healthcare dollar that's being spent. So this bill was brought about initially for transparency. Now the bill evolved, and I have to give credit where credit is due. If it weren't for Senator Adam Bass, who added several key provisions on the Senate side with some really, really critical amendments, this bill grew in both scope and oversight to stop some of the negative things that have been happening in this space. Our independent pharmacies have been just pummeled by PBMs and their illicit pricing schemes through spread pricing and not reimbursing and clawbacks and all these other crazy words. But all this results or goes back to consumers pay more at the time of service. They are pushed to brand name drugs versus generic drugs for certain disease states. There's no transparency. There's a rebating scheme where health plans can reap massive profits as well as the PBMs. And there's just so many other issues that are abusive practices that happen in this industry. And I've seen it, I worked for over a decade with a health plan, with a physician group and a hospital group, and we tried to do things as transparent as possible. And so to see it done from a fair side versus what these national players are doing to rape and pillage the consumer without the consumer's knowledge, and then they send out a massive text message scheme trying to bully lobbyists and legislators, actually more legislators because they hired a bunch of damn lobbyists, but their tactics were they lost, and so it was fun to see the bad guy lose, and that we're trying to help the consumer at the end of the day lower costs, create a more transparent environment for our drug pricing, and a more fair system.
All right, so let me lead off with this. So first of all, what the hell are PBMs? And let me say this. So I would assume that you've got like the drug reps that visit the doctor's offices, and maybe above them or somewhere above that mix are these PBMs. I don't know. You can answer that in a minute. But let me just say this from the drug rep standpoint, if we want to save some money in healthcare, they need to cut out their food bill to all the doctor's offices every day of the week that they deliver, because it's ridiculous the amount of money that we're apparently paying in our drug prices just to feed, and no offense to all the healthcare workers and all that, but we're feeding them a lot during the week.
So
So what's the
So
deal?
go back to 20 years ago, there were congressional reforms that reformed how, and there were some egregious practices. This is back when, I know you're out going out for your scripts of either Viagra or some other drug with that they're schlepping at the doctor's office to try to, get you to take one of these brand name drugs.
Blue Chew, Viagra, so old. That's old school, Mike. You need to
All
come
right,
on back
so
into the. This is
I had to,
Mosier over here. We're not that
y'all razzed
antiquated. That's
me.
Monroe.
I
Okay.
had I had to razz y'all, but some 20 plus years ago, they reformed a lot of those rules that don't allow them to go out and buy them fancy trips or shotguns and the other stuff, because there were abusive practices that happened not only in just brand name drug spaces, but you go back to opioids and those types of things. But that's all aside. A pharmacy benefit manager is a group that is hired by a health plan or some group to manage the pharmacy benefit, and that could be negotiating with drug manufacturers to go out and buy volumetric pricing and then bring value back to the people that they represent. They do contracting, they work with independent pharmacies, they grow networks, they do all these little things. But historically, as they were started to do this service on a percent of, let's say you have $1 million a year in spend in pharmaceutical benefit, you may pay a 3 or 5% fee for that service. Well, what they found over the years were they could go out and actually do all these negotiating schemes and keep other parts of the differently aligned profitability components of this. And since then, our drug costs have gone through the roof. They've done these clawback schemes with pharmacies where they've got, it's called spread pricing, where they'll charge a certain dollar amount from the manufacturer. They'll take and then give the pharmacy or the local independent pharmacy less of a reimbursement than what they're actually having to pay for the drug, and they're keeping the differentials between the two. So there's 100 schemes within this game, and that's why this bill is so important, is because it has a variety of provisions that stop the egregious practices, which should over time lower the cost of prescription drugs. Outside of a good looking pharmaceutical rep going and feeding a doctor, they're there showing them a new drug and a new methodology, and that's fine. I mean, we need doctors to know about new drugs. But what we don't need are PBMs going out and screwing the little guy independent pharmacy and hurting those that are actually just trying to lower the cost, increase transparency to the consumer on what it costs to sell a drug.
All right. So let me share my little story, Duke, first, because I got it on my mind. So, and this is probably going to upset a lot of local pharmacists or whatever, and I'm sorry, but here's the scenario. I take 3 medications, some blood pressure medication, cholesterol medicine. Anyway, I was using Walgreens, decided I wasn't real happy with their customer service, blah, blah, blah. I was looking at switching. I came across the Amazon pharmacy. Now, let me paint the scenario. We've got pretty good healthcare insurance. My wife works for one of the local hospitals here, or doctor's offices. Anyway, so the medicine has been costing, I don't know, $23, $24 a month to me out of pocket. Not a big deal. But I'm still looking to save some money. So I looked into the Amazon deal as an Amazon Prime member. Okay? No insurance. Amazon Prime member. I can pay less for the same exact medicine than what I was paying with pretty darn good insurance. Oh, but it gets better. I am an Amazon Prime member, so I already spend that because we order a lot of stuff from Amazon, all that. But for, whoops, we lost his video. You still there, Mike?
I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So for an extra $5 a month, Amazon, and I'm not promoting Amazon because they're not sponsoring the show or anything, but I'm just telling you, for an extra $5 a month, Amazon has a deal called RX Pass. It has about 30 something medications, I don't know, however many. All of mine are included in that. So now I just pay $5 a month for the same medicine I was paying $24, $23, $24, $25 with insurance that I could pay less if I had no insurance at all. This just doesn't make sense.
So here's the scheme. PBMs build those formularies for those health plans. The health plans should have the sophistication to do this themselves and price it just like Amazon. They don't, because the PBMs collude with those health plans and set up an illicit pricing scheme where they keep part of the money that you're paying at the time of that retail. It's not the retail pharmacy that's screwing you. It is the PBM and the health plan that are sharing in those dollars that you're paying through a copay and or that higher dollar retail value that you're talking about. That is the scheme, and that is what my bill fixes. It fixes those schemes, and they hate this video, and they hate that I'm talking about this because this is an industry-wide phenomenon, and you see it clearly because you're working with Amazon on those drugs don't cost that much to produce, but they
Right.
set up these schemes with your plan design to screw you and even the health plan. I mean, they're all in it together working to take your dollar.
Well, you think there's some hate on that right now. What I'm fixing to say is fixing to bring some more hate. So change all of this from medications to insurance, auto insurance.
Yes.
Isn't it the same thing? It is the same thing. I know it's
No,
the same thing. From a commercial
it's
standpoint, I can tell you. Go ahead, say what you're going to say.
no. It's a scheme. It's just a different scheme. And so the scheme is whether or not. And so there's two different people that are I wouldn't say pillaging, but they're pillaging between on the trial bar side and some of the games that are played there through medical billing schemes and jackpot justice and all those things. And we could talk about that through some of the tort reform measures we passed. Some address it, some that didn't make it through the line that would have. But those games are played on both sides of the house. That's why Louisiana needed to go through a comprehensive, complete insurance reform, workman's comp, auto insurance, property casualty, and the PBM schemes that are going on. These are the things we've been talking about for 5 years. And to me, it's so exciting. I know it doesn't feel like we're making huge headway. We are. And it's because we're tackling these little bitty systemic problems. I've always said Louisiana, it's not one problem you're trying to solve and you see big results. It's 1,000 little things. And these 1,000 little things we are starting to address one by one. PBM thing's a big thing, but even the tort reform laws that we're talking about and insurance reform laws, all those little bits make a big impact. It just takes a little time to see that result.
Yeah, Rex, I want me to finish this thought, and I
Mhm.
agree with you totally, and I think y'all are definitely moving things in the right direction. I mean, we're seeing a change. There's change in the mix. But when I was listening to you talk about your bill and talking about the PBMs, in my mind, you prompted me, and I was thinking, I mean, the benefits being held back and what's quoted from a broker to your agent, you don't get the benefit of knowing that. There should be an insured bill of rights to where you know exactly what the broker is giving to the agent, and it's if there is a reduction that maybe after you've had your trucking company for 20 years and have a perfect CSA with no loss runs or what have you, and there is a discount, but yet your agent is telling you, oh no, it's an increase, you're not getting a decrease. I mean, there should be something similar to what you have right here, to where that benefit it flows through. And I wasn't trying to get you off track of because this is a wonderful bill and this is something that needed to be addressed. But I just could not get out of my mind thinking that, man, this is the framework to apply to insurance, possibly.
So from a transparency standpoint, and so when you look at some of the bills we passed on insurance transparency, not PBMs, but when I sat and echoed last year, I said, look, consumers, constituents, I will vote for any bill that provides some level of transparency, some level of oversight, and that tackles this problem. And I voted on both good and somewhat mediocre bills, but each one of them either tackles insurance companies or trial bar and the abuses that have happened there again and again and again. Are they perfect? No. Are they progress? Yes. And that's what I think we've tried to do is these little steps along the way to make it a better fabric for both an insurance environment operating in a transparent environment, as well as the regulators that are supposed to be overseeing this. None of it is what I would consider easy, but I think there are little wins along the way that we'll see fruits from that. Now, what I also know is that we're not stopping. Like we've got the wind at our back now. We just got to keep chipping away over the next couple of years. And I'm optimistic about that with the bunch we've got there. We're not all on the same page, but we're generally rowing in the same direction.
All right, so we've talked about this bill. Duke, and Mike, I've got the video queued up. So let's take about, what is this? I think it's about 2.5 minutes or so. And let's watch this video that you put out on your Facebook page. All right.
If you've ever picked up a prescription and thought, why is this so expensive? You're not alone.
Especially on a fixed income, those prices can feel impossible. What most people don't know is that there are middlemen involved. Companies called pharmacy benefit managers. They're supposed to get discounts from drug companies, but too often they keep the savings for themselves.
That's not right. That's why I wrote this bill, House Bill 264, to fix it.
It makes sure those discounts go straight to the pharmacy counter, lowering what patients actually pay. It's a simple idea. If there's a deal on your medicine, you should receive the savings.
Not some company in the middle. This is about fairness.
And about making sure our seniors aren't getting squeezed at the register.
Now I want to clear up some misinformation. CVS, to you. One of the biggest PBM-linked corporations in America sent out mass text messages to state employees attempting to influence legislation, using information tied to contracts that expressly forbids that type of political influence. This morning, bright and early, I had a vibrant conversation with Attorney General Liz Murrill, and she is committed to me to pressing forward with charges for these illegal acts, and I thank her. When you send out hundreds of thousands of messages, it's a violation of terms of your state OGB contract. And we'll hold them accountable. There'll be penalties. And hey, if we get a few bucks for every one of those million texts that went out, maybe we can fill that fund that we're about to approve. So let me say this plainly. The microscope is on. The shadows are shrinking. The games are over. The profiteers, the hidden middlemen, the health plans that coordinate with them, we're watching. To the billion-dollar empires who sent the hit pieces, the misinformation, and the lobbyists to twist arms, you lost today. To the people of Louisiana, we stood with you, not with them. This house is not for sale. This legislature can't be bullied. Because when it comes down to it, folks, we choose the people of Louisiana.
Amen to that. So let me ask you, is this a Louisiana only deal, or is this across the nation? And I mean, are we, I don't want to say is the state trying to price fix, because I'm definitely on the side of your bill. But what I'm getting at is, as a state, are we trying to set limits or things that these PBMs and drug companies can and cannot do that they don't experience in other states?
So Their scheme is a national scheme. Arkansas has passed an aggressive measure that says if you're a PBM, you can't own a retail pharmacy. That's what Dustin Miller's bill, House Bill 358, which failed in the Senate, didn't get concurred on, would have done. So part of, if you look at the levels and how they price and how they pull money out of every level, there's so many levels in the healthcare system. Right now, PBMs probably work in a utopia of 9 levels. That's your PBM. You own maybe a retail pharmacy. You may own doctors. You may own hospitals. There are all these different levels you can extract money from the healthcare dollar out of. So Dustin Miller's bill basically says where the two largest areas that they extract money, they'll own a pharmacy, whether it's retail or mail order, and they'll pull money out at those levels. There's no regulation from CMS or Medicaid or Medicare that says you can't pull exponential profits out of those levels. Now, if you just owned a PBM and a health plan, you're required as a health plan to pull or spend 85 cents on the dollar from a Medicaid, Medicare standpoint on actual health care. So there's a price fixing based on how those systems work. Now, I only know this because I've seen how health plans run and I know the details very well. You start to add these other layers where there are no price controls because healthcare is a mandated benefit. All of us have to pay it in some form or fashion. So if you're forced to pay it, you shouldn't be forced to pay highly inflated prices of 50, 100, 300, 500, 1,000%. Like that to me is criminal. So what this legislation has done and what this first level of transparency is, House Bill 264, which provides, some key provisions and reforms, I think could be model legislation that's passed state by state. I think Representative Miller's bill that did the delinking or basically cuts off the PBMs from owning a pharmacy is basically cut the head off a snake. You can't do this practice, and it kills their scheme. My bill provides transparency, insight on the abusive practices. It regulates from a pricing perspective that if you have a rebate, you as a health plan or you as a PBM can't keep that money. By law, it has to go back to the consumer. To me, that's fair because PBMs were set up that way originally, not as a way to keep those illicit profits. It's a very complex conversation, but I'm happy to come on every show that talks about a pineapple or whatever other incendiary activity to explain it because it's a very, very non-transparent process. I want to make it transparent. More sunshine, better outcomes for consumers.
Now you said in that video and on your floor speech, and you talked about a state contract, and I
Yep.
don't know what you were talking about there. Touch on that a little bit.
Let me elaborate on that. So, unfortunately for CVS, they sent out millions of messages lobbying this issue. They put up signs in their retail stores. CVS made a massive, and whoever their CEO is that ordered that, I hope their board of directors knows that they should be fired. They're as dumb as rocks because they have contractual obligations with groups like the state group of employees. In Louisiana, that's roughly 230,000 people they have a contractual obligation with that basically says that they can't do political lobbying. And there's all types of, details within that state contract, but they went out anyway. Now they're retail customers. They can lie and cheat and say whatever they want to say within their disclaimers when you go and sign up for a prescription drug. But OGB, our state contract, has very specific language around abuses that you can't do. You can't use these people's personal medical information to go out and lobby for a particular cause. And they did it anyway. They said to hell with it and rocked on and just literally millions of messages. We got 250,000 people that are in our group plan. And so if you think about if they sent all of them 3 or 4 messages, if there's ever a fee or a penalty based on every message they sent out, this could be hundreds of millions of dollars in fine based on what they
Wow.
did. So when you got a corrupt organization like that that does such incredibly inappropriate things, just to influence this fiefdom that they've created, it tells you how big of an operation it is and how many hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars are at stake. And so I get that they're desperate and out there swinging at the fences, but you can't, if you got a contractual obligation with the state, you still have to follow that. And so that's why our attorney general is investigating it. And I think that there'll at some point be a finding based on what they've done. And consumers know better. They're out there looking, going, well, wait, if CVS is telling me to do this, this feels like it. I mean, like I've talked to hundreds of constituents. They felt that CVS was in the wrong for doing this because they're trying to influence their political decision, not their healthcare decision, which they're in charge of, their political decision, which is wrong.
Yeah, and I'll say they were certainly getting a lot of the social media comments that I saw. CVS was getting absolutely roasted over that deal. But look, it may be a calculated risk on their part because let's say the AG does fine them. I'll just pick a number. Let's say the AG fines them $5 million. I don't know, whatever it is. They'll probably appeal that, take it to court. And so it's a calculated risk on their part to spend X amount of dollars to continue making the money through these, I hate to say it, drug schemes, scams, whatever you want to call them.
So I think they're in direct violation of their contract with the state, which gives the state an exit clause, which would immediately allow the state to go out and do an emergency contract and fire them. Not to mention fire them, but also sue them for hundreds of millions of dollars, even maybe to the point of $1 billion+ I think that they overplayed their hand and their downside risk is far more dramatic. I hope Wall Street notices this because this won't be the first or last time they make this stupid decision. And hopefully they get paid back at the stock ticker symbol versus what's happening right now, which is I think their CEO is in a world of hurt based on the decisions they've made here. I think that'll ripple out into other conservative states, and think they deserve what they get.
Well, Jeff Sadow makes a good point talking about that the contract that CVS had, came to it by way of the John Bell administration. And he says that after a court fight launched by then Attorney General Jeff Landry, which I don't, that's news to me, but Jeff is on top of things. And that's a pretty good point. I'm sure. Well, I don't know. What do you know anything about that?
I do. I've followed this process and how they were awarded the last contract. There was an extraordinary amount of controversy around it. I don't think the last administration was there doing the right thing when they were doing a lot of these inside negotiated deals. I think if you actually go back and look at the record and what and how they were awarded these things, that these were inside deals and that they were not fairly bid, and I don't think they were in the best interest of the consumers of the state. And I think once all that comes out too, and if the AG adjudicates this appropriately, this could be a far more dramatically bigger deal than what anybody thinks and sees. But that's really all the insights I can provide you on that because I wasn't at the negotiating table. I would have never picked CVS Caremark because there are other better, more transparent plans that are out there that would provide a more fair deal that didn't provide exorbitant pricing and try to design formularies that drive people to high cost brands as Rex talked about earlier. Like those schemes are what makes the industry look like crap. And if you want a fair, transparent process on drugs and access to drugs, there's a better way to do it. CVS was not that path, from my opinion. And I shop at my local pharmacy when I get my any medications that I might be looking for, my family might be looking for. And so, they do steerage, they do all these other crazy schemes that drive to their profitability. And look, I feel so sorry for those pharmacists that work for them that are a part of this scheme. But I think there are better ways to get your medications. I like our local pharmacists. I'll side with them. I have for many, many years, and they've just gotten it just jammed up the backside based on the way these schemes have gone on for years and years and years. This bill fixes a lot of that, and I look forward to the day that is signed into law and active and can protect our local pharmacists that provide a valuable tool on a team-based approach with our local primary care doctors to work as a holistic group to try to solve people's healthcare problems.
And we won't keep you too much longer. I don't know how much time you have, but
I've
and you
got
just
as
kind of
much time as you guys want. We stay away from pineapples, and I'll keep talking to you.
Well, that's
just as
wonderful
just
because
as
I've got
swinging.
questions ready and waiting. So
All right.
don't go nowhere, Rex.
All right. So my question is, and you just kind of touched on it, what is the status of your bill, and how can people watching the show and that may, watch this in the next couple of days or listen to it, what can folks do to try to help push this or move this bill along? What's the status and how can people help?
Yeah, so House Bill 264 is on the governor's desk now. He has roughly 17 days left to either sign the bill or the bill automatically becomes law. He's been at a economic development conference in Paris for the last at least 4 days, I think, and he comes back on Monday. I've talked to his team. I don't have any apprehension at this point that he would veto the bill, but I guess you never know. But I would think within the next week or two he could potentially sign it into law. The moment it gets signed into law, there are certain provisions within the bill that immediately become effective. Some of those deal with definitions, enforcement authority, steering prohibitions. So these PBMs can't just steer to their own assets versus you go into a local pharmacy. And then it sets up an advisory council where we have more oversight immediately. Effective January 1st of 2026, this law also updates some pricing for our local pharmacies where they get fair competitive pricing, which is the national standard. And then when you get to March 1st, some of the transparency reports become due from these PBMs, which will provide some insights as to their pricing practices. And then finally, if you go to January 1st of 2027, there's certain components of the bill that fully ban spread pricing and some other egregious practices that PBMs do. It also aligns with some federal mandates that are rolling down from the Trump administration. And I think based on what I was just reading earlier today, the Senate has added some provisions to their big, beautiful tax bill that would also maybe encompass some of the things that I've proposed in my bill for transparency and other things where these illicit pricing schemes go on with PBMs. So this isn't just a one-off state issue. This is a national issue. And I'm just glad Louisiana is leading in a couple things, and this is one of them.
Yeah, I agree. I love this bill actually, and I'm glad you brought it, and thank you very much. And on the steering thing, there's a lot of other industries out there where there is steering going on that I think, from a monetary standpoint, would be comparable to this PBM issue. And it's unfortunate, but I'm going to say this: that I wish the Attorney General, because I have heard of quite a few stories and seen some things that are being overlooked by the AG's office. And I wish Liz would take a little bit of time to look at some of them because they may even be bigger than this issue. But for some reason, there's a problem down there. But enough with that. I got that off my chest. So far, to my best I understand, there's been 3 bills vetoed by the governor so far. And if I'm correct, 2 of those 3 bills are from Bossier senators. And,
Seabiscuit.
one bill was by Seabiscuit and the other was one of I was going to say Alan Bass, by Senator Bass. Now,
Close enough.
Bass's bill was regarding gambling or some stuff, with the state police and AG and investigation, all this stuff. But the biscuit bill is the one that I got the big question on. This is one. Was that a tort reform bill or an insurance bill?
So it was both. It was as I understand it, it was both a legal reform in the insurance space. So it's a little bit of both. That was a big disappointment from me, and I know even a lot of other conservatives, because I thought that was a good bill. Now, Alan is a unique individual that I've loved working with over years. He's been so much fun to serve with on labor committee, and I call it, he's like an angry chihuahua. When he gets on an issue, he bites into it and he doesn't let go. And I love that in legislators. I think Alan is a phenomenal legislator. He's been a lot of fun to work with, and I've always admired him. He's brilliant at a legal mind. But he bites into something he doesn't let go. I think this was a good bill. I don't think it was a good veto. But look, the governor and the politics that happen in that building are what they are. The same thing with Senator Bass. Senator Bass is a brilliant mind, a brilliant individual, and it has been an absolute pleasure in working with him on like this bill in particular, 264. It would not be what it is without him. Like he led the most transparent, open process to amend that bill. He headed up some of the key reforms and provisions in this bill, and I can't give him enough credit. Like I said, Al, I said, Adam, thank you, thank you, thank you. He did such a phenomenal job leading this effort in a way that, as CBS and others sue us to try to stop these measures, it was open, fair, and transparent. He gave them every amendment along the way. So I give credit where credit is due. It has been fun to work with he and Alan and that whole group because they're brilliant minds. They're working for the right reasons. Whether they get vetoed or not, there's politics and there's policy. And you got to be ready for both. Same way with my bill. If the governor decides to veto this bill, well, that's politics. That's not policy. I think it's good policy. I think others think it's good policy, and I hope he signs it into law in the next couple of weeks. I think he will, but you never know. This is a weird game we play.
So, okay, I have to ask because you just framed it. So was the governor's veto politics or policy?
I think some of it is politics, and then some of it may be intricate policy. You never know what his long-term aspirations are as it relates to specific policy measures. And sometimes that doesn't reveal itself until we get called into a special session. So we don't know until we know. And so they're playing a different level of politics at that level than we're playing as House members or senators. And so until time passes, we don't know what the ultimate game plan is sometimes. And so that just takes time to figure out. And eventually, I mean, we've made good strides in a lot of these different areas. I think the governor's message right after the session was point on that we really, have done a great job in some areas around tort reform, insurance reform, both holding insurance companies as well as trial bar responsible for areas of the law that were just flawed. And then we had other major wins from a fiscal standpoint. And then over the last several years, over the last year, criminal justice reform, tax reform. Like we've made major reforms, and I'm going to tag it. I don't normally do this, but
Mellerin's bill was a good one.
oh, Michael Mellerin's great. He is a brilliant mind, and he's fun to work with, and a great guy. We developed a website about a year ago called contractwithlouisiana.com. I'll let y'all do a little deep dive on it. But we took some of the different ideas we had over the last 4 years prior to Governor Landry and just said, look, if we're going to pass a conservative agenda, much like Contract with America under Newt Gingrich, what does Louisiana have to do to be a better state, fabric wise? Whether that was through tax policy, education policy, insurance reform, economic development, education, criminal justice, and on and on and on. You can see it right there, contractwithlouisiana.com. Just in the first, we'll call it 16 months since we took office in, January of 2024. So 16 months later, we've knocked out 40% of like some major reform areas for Louisiana. We have not even seen the beginning of the fruit of that. And we still have some areas to knock out. But look, we knock out those 10 key areas, the areas I've mentioned, plus others on that site. I think you see Louisiana, people start to go, what the hell happened? This state was this fiefdom of, you know, bad stuff. And now it's this great place to do business, grow jobs, grow a family. That's what the big vision is. And I think we finally have a chance to get there because we have aligned the politics and the people, not perfect, but way better. And that's what that's about. We got a really good group right now. And so we're making strides. It's painful. We give y'all a lot of content to talk about every week, but it's a better place. I think we're doing a better job.
All right. So my question will be a little more direct going back to the insurance deal because that's number one issue on a lot of people's mind. And every time I get my State Farm premiums for my vehicle insurance alone, it's on my mind front and center. So going back to Seabiscuit's bill that the governor vetoed, I don't really care whether it was politics or policy so much as would it have lowered our rates. That's all I care about. I don't care about it helping insurance companies one little bit, or trial lawyers for that matter, one little bit. Would it, in your opinion, have reduced our rates at all?
So I think any and all those bills over time would reduce rates. Yes. Whether it was 1% or 20. Some of these provisions that, whether it was Allen or several of the other bills that passed, are bills that have passed in Florida through really strategic insurance reform. And again, I don't have all the talking points on his bill, but I know that incrementally, every one of these swipes at this problem should, over time, reduce rates.
Fair enough. All right, Mr. Lowry. Shall we get into budget issues, or I mean, we could just keep going forever with this. Uh-oh.
We got the big dog in the house.
Say no to corn, Bo.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, your mic is doing that thing again.
yeah, I'm not going to be able to fix it because Bo, my trusty Chesapeake Bay retriever that there's no ducks to retrieve, decided he wanted to switch it. So, so Mike, I gotta know. A lot of people are criticizing the governor right now, and I mean, I understand that there was some polling done that he wasn't looking real favorable. I mean, what's your take on it? What's your perception? I mean, you think he's looking bad, or do you think not, or what? I'm not trying to get you to talk about him, but I'm saying the reality. He took a few hits this session.
So yeah, just on some bills, but I was actually kind of pontificating with a colleague tonight. I said, we're in year two of a gubernatorial situation. Year two versus year four, two totally different years. And so, whether it's a political veto or some issue that you don't support or an issue you do support, you have time to recover from those little speed bumps on the way to a governorship. People love to speculate. Normally, it's in the worst way possible. But I think in general, I know the heart of the governor. I've listened to him, I've talked to him, and I think he's a good fella that is trying to do the right things for the state. And so, from a fabric overarching policy standpoint, I think we've got a lot of good things going in our state right now. Economic development, number one. I know insurance reform and tort reform, we've probably passed more measures in the last 12 months than we probably have in the last 20 years that are meaningful reforms. I think they're going to take time to see the fruits of those labor. We can always be critical in the short term because you don't pass this or you do pass this. But I think in general, we have fabric wise passed more policy in the last 18 months that from tax, from court, and general policy that will make Louisiana a better place. When you got companies that are coming here from all over the nation, I know it because I see the guys that are coming to town and they're visiting. And I'm in Northeast Louisiana right now. It's data, 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 IT, 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 AI. And so just the general excitement that we have reformed the franchise tax, that we are working towards simplifying or eliminating completely the inventory tax, that we've lowered personal income tax rates, that we've lowered the corporate tax rates, and then simplify the regulatory environment from whether it was EPA or whatever else that the issues that we're facing. Those things are tangible. Business get that and they work far ahead of the consumer. I think we get to a point where we're a low, super low to a no income tax state coupled with one of the best business climates in the nation. Then I think Louisiana will be on the map. I think the governor has a lot of credit due to him for making that happen. So I'm currently a fan and I'm optimistic. If we ever go way off the rails, I'll also be. I've had a radio show for 20 some odd years, and I try to call balls and strikes. But I think in general, we're moving in the right direction.
Fair enough. I would probably side with you. Still giving him a little bit of a chance.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
y'all's job is to be critical of every decision we make, and that is wonderful. I think in the media environment. I mean, again, I mentioned the radio show. I try to find a fair, transparent environment for politicians to talk about the things they don't normally feel comfortable talking about because there's always a critical opposite side and opinion on issues. I get that, but in general, if you look at where we're moving, 30,000 foot going forward. I think we're moving in the right direction. Is it perfect? No. Could it be better? Yes. But is it forward motion that Louisiana may have not seen based on horrible, bad political decisions? We're going in a better direction. And I know that to be a fact.
yeah, I would agree totally with what you just said because I think that we're moving. That's the point. In previous years, we haven't moved. It's like we've been stagnant, but good or bad, regardless, we're making a change. It's either going to work or it's not going to work. If it doesn't work, then you know what? We go back and we try it the other way. If it does work, then great. Everybody's heroes. We're all happy. And that's what I voted for with Landry. It wasn't that I was going to agree with everything, but when he said we're going to do things different and there are going to be changes, we're going to try something different. That's what I voted for, and that is what we're getting. Definitely, like it or not, that's what you're getting.
Well, most governors are not popular in year one or year two. It's when it becomes time for re-elections, like all of us politicians. That's the time we figure out better solutions that make us look a little shinier than we did the 2 years before. So hard decisions year one and year two, easy decisions in year three and year four.
I think you're the only politician I've ever talked to that literally just admitted that. Good job.
Look, I just try to speak the truth. That's all I know. I try to tell the truth, and if you like it, buy more, and if you don't, send me packing. Either way, I'm okay.
Well, we appreciate your time, and I think we're going to swing back to Bossier politics and get off of state politics real quick.
Well,
and
from my Pineapple Island to yours, I hope y'all have a swinging good time tonight on your show. And as always, I appreciate you guys inviting me. And hopefully, I'll still be up for the annual Cockroach Award. I know that's an annual presentation that's made, and hopefully, I just get invited to that banquet.
Hey, we know a couple of guys that might can help you out with tickets to that.
Wonderful.
All right.
Appreciate y'all's
Thanks.
time tonight, gentlemen. Thank y'all.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mike.
Mike.
See you guys.
See you.
All right. Always a good conversation there with Mr. Echols. I learned a little bit about insurance and, let me rephrase that, insurance and pharmacies and how we're getting hosed all the way around.
Yeah, I did too. I got to tell you, there was definitely some things that I did not know in there that what he was saying, and that was informative for me as well. No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I don't rely on medications and pharmacies a whole lot. I guess probably that's going to be a thing that'll be important to me at some point in the near future as I get older. But right now it's not a big thing for me. And but if you are older, I can and own a lot of medicines, I can see how that would be a very extremely important issue.
Well, even like with me, I've been very fortunate and blessed that, I've not been sick or anything like that very much in my life. And, the three medicines I take, okay, so they cost me $20 or 20 something dollars a month out of pocket. And even if I didn't have insurance at all and went down to the local pharmacy, that would cost me about $70 a month or somewhere around there. So it's not that bad compared to a lot of people that are taking a lot of medicines. But even in my case, where it's saving me, for the most part, $20 a month, I mean, that's $240 a year. That'll buy me a couple of tanks of gas in my boat and some fishing baits.
So, yeah, no doubt.
I am responding to some comments.
I was going to say you were typing away furiously there. So while you're doing that, some people were late coming into the show. Why don't we, because I just can't stand it, why don't we show Tommy's swinging video one more time? And then we've got we got some other stuff to talk about for a few minutes. What do you say, Mr. Lowry? Are you up to go swinging again?
Let's swing right into it.
Thanks to Chasing Aces, we'll now have a community where everyone are swingers, and all the time is tea time. Thank you on a great job. Congratulations.
The one part of his little spill there that he didn't bobble at all was definitely the swinging part. So there you go, folks, again, and I can promise everybody watching the show, I'm going to do one of the little videos and transcribe it and put music to it, and we are going to wear that soundbite out, playing it over and over and over. All right, so I don't know what all else you had to talk about, but we've previously had both Blake Miguez and John Fleming, of course, on the show as guests, and we are both admittedly fans of both of them. But Mr. Miguez announced his official U.S. Senate campaign today on his Facebook page, and he released one of the best video ads I've ever seen, or at least in a long, long time. Did you happen to see that, Mr. Lowry?
I saw part of it, but I haven't seen it from beginning to end, so I'd love to see it again.
All right, so let's watch that for a minute. Folks, this is on Blake's page, so here we go.
I voted to convict President Trump.
I'm Blake Miguez, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate because Bill Cassidy sucks. I'm a seventh-generation Louisianan and a world champion sharpshooter. Phony politicians like Bill Cassidy can't shoot straight, but I can. Ultra-processed foods are slowly poisoning our children. Cartels and gangs have invaded our country with violent crimes and drugs. Far-left Marxists are attacking and destroying American culture. President Trump is already saving America, but he needs our help. President Trump needs a Senate to support him full time. No more part-time election season Republicans. We're done with DC phonies. Down here, loyalty matters. We don't flinch, and we sure don't forget. I grew up in a working-class family, worked our way up. Like so many Louisianans, I fought through hurricanes, hard times, and government incompetence. Politicians didn't pick us back up. Faith, family, and hard work did. Government's been broken. Trump is fixing it. Do you want a senator you know will have Trump's back? A straight shooter who doesn't flinch when it's time to fight? I'm your guy. We're done being fooled by weak Republicans.
I voted to convict President Trump.
Bill Cassidy had his shot. He missed. I won't. I'm Blake Miguez, and I approve this message because it's time to pull the trigger on real change.
Now, I don't know whether I like the gun porn better or the fact that he literally said Bill Cassidy sucks better.
Well, I like the fact that he said Bill Cassidy sucks better. I mean, it's kind of more down to earth and all that stuff. And all the gun stuff, I got to tell you, he looked kind of mean there in the end.
Well, look, you can tell it's kind of like fishing and hunting and guns. You can just tell he knows how to operate a weapon, period.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. But we knew that already. I mean, We've known that about him. I mean, the big question is, you know, is he a viable opponent against John Bel Edwards in the runoff for U.S. Senate?
That is a good question. And, you know, look, unabashedly so, we're both big fans of John Fleming. He's a straight up conservative guy. He's one of the longtime conservative, original Tea Party MAGA types. He also stood with us, and he didn't really have to, on the Bossier term limits issue. He was
That's
on
right.
the record several times and let his stance on it be absolutely known without a doubt. So I
Didn't
think,
even blink.
yeah, I think either way, we've got two very good Republican candidates in Fleming and with Blake Miguez. But you're right. The question is, if John Bell does jump in, I don't think he's officially launched yet or anything. But if he does jump in, yeah, it's going to come down to who's the stronger candidate against John Bell.
Well, you said earlier, and I want to say this. I mean, I consider Blake a friend. John Fleming, I consider John a friend, and I already committed to supporting John Fleming, and a lot of people have, and that's going to be a little bit of a problem for folks. And both of those guys are great, awesome, conservative people, and I made my commitment. I can't change. But my question comes down to who can win in that runoff. Anyone that would dismiss John Bell Edwards in a race, statewide election for U.S. Senate, would be remiss if you didn't take him serious. And it's going to take a lot of money. You can bet Democrats across the nation are going to pour a buttload of money into Bell. So on the Republican side, it's going to take a buttload of money, and I would tend to think that when it comes along, Trump is going to weigh in the race, and he will, without a shadow of a doubt, he'll be with Fleming, or Miguez if it ended up being Miguez in the runoff. But here's the rub. I mean, Miguez and Fleming are going for the same base.
Right.
And are they going to split the base and afford Cassidy the ability to squeeze in there? It's very possible, and you can't say that it's not, because, and I needed to go back and check on this bill, but there was a bill that was combining, I think it was the not the Green Party, but the Independents and the No Party affiliation, because only one of them could vote in the Republican primary. But when you combine them both, it brings that total to almost 800 to 900,000 voters statewide. And if that group of people were to say go with Cassidy, it's enough that it could swing that election.
The math doesn't lie ever, and you bring up a good point. I mean, it's real easy for all of us, watching the show and sitting here in front of the camera and all that, to hoorah for the Miguez video and his candidacy, or for John Fleming and his stance with term limits and very conservative stances on just about everything else. But in the end, it's going to come down to the math, like you said. And you're right. The unfortunate thing of this might end up being that with Blake's popularity and Fleming's, they split the vote basically three ways with Cassidy. Cassidy squeezes in, and Cassidy's got to run against John Bell. And Cassidy is not well liked in Louisiana right now. I would argue by a majority of citizens, but I won't say by all of them, or a majority of Republicans anyway.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, look, Blake is a smart guy, and there's no way that Blake hasn't made this calculation. I mean, there's no way he hasn't made this calculation, and somehow, some way, he sees a path without enabling, Cassidy to make the runoff. So I don't know. I'm supposed to call Blake back. When Kara was in the hospital having that surgery, Blake had called while we were in the hospital, and I told him I was going to call him back. I saw him at one of the recent state central committee meetings, and we talked briefly, and I told him, I said, look, I said, it's my fault. It's not your fault that I haven't called you back. I said, but I will call you. And, I'm pretty sure Blake probably wants to come on the show, and, we chat a little bit, and probably definitely now. And, in all fairness, we need to let him come on the show, and we need to talk to Blake and hear what it is, and we can ask him. Exactly.
Yeah, look, my first question is going to be pretty simple. How many takes did it get for him to get those cans? Was it a one-shot deal, or how many takes did they have to do for that commercial? In all seriousness.
Well, you ask him. You say, I think that was AI.
Yeah, exactly.
You tell him that.
Some slick editing there. But in all seriousness, now, so I'll bring it up because Cassidy didn't have the comment up there.
Jeff's making a good point. He says, no, there is a runoff. Polling shows Cassidy nowhere near 50% +1. So there will be a runoff.
There will be, but there's a lot of things could change in the next, well, it'd basically be 9 months or whatever for the primary, I think.
Well, Jeff, I would tell you, and this is going to come as a little bit of a gut wrencher, I would say, to a lot of rank and file Republicans, but I will tell you that there were more people at the last Republican State Central Committee meeting that were supportive of Cassidy than I would have expected to have seen or heard. And I don't know how, but I'm just telling you they were there.
Right. Could be interesting. And again, unless something drastic happens, it may just simply come down to the math. But either way, I think we have two viable candidates against Cassidy, and even potentially against John Bell. As far as Sammy Wyatt, we discussed that, I think, a couple of shows ago. He did address the Bossier Republican PEC. I like Sammy. Sammy's a super nice guy. We've talked occasionally over the last couple of years and all that. I would put him right now, at least, on a lower tier below Miguez and Fleming as far as the race goes. My opinion. No offense, Sammy, but that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I don't. It's. He's not going to be there in the end. So I don't know what the deal is or exactly 100% how he, because I think at the PEC meeting, maybe I'm misspeaking, but I think we tried to get him to explain how he believes a path to victory, how he could get there. And I didn't hear it completely articulated. Not in a way as I believe. No, I didn't see it.
Yes, much like his answers against or about the blockchain versus U.S. currency and all that, I was less than impressed with his answer. And again, I told him that too after at the close of the meeting. But anyway, so it's going to be interesting for the Senate race because there are lots of people that are not happy with Cassidy. And anyway, so it's going to be interesting. But keep pumping out the good ads, Blake.
So, hey, did you know that the last council meeting of this council happened today?
I had in my head July the 1st. I had it pictured in my head that they were all going to be at the council meeting and the new councilmen were literally going to show the other ones the door. But apparently that is not the way the procedure goes. And if I'd have known that today was going to be their last council meeting there, I actually would have shown up.
Well, it just so happens that we have the video, and there's a few things in there. It was that I think folks ought to see. I mean, There was plaques being given out, and congratulations, and thank yous, and attaboys, and all that. And I don't know, some people have an opinion, here and there about things. And I've got a couple of ideas. I was thinking about it because I got to tell you, for me as well, this is the end. I hate to say the end of an era, but this is also there's something personal for me in this too. But you got Chris and Hammond standing there at the mic, and they're going to take personal privilege to recognize those councilmen leaving, and I guess we could just go from there.
All right, well, here we go. Just tell me when to stop.
And, I would just like to say too, unlike Councilman Maggio and Councilman Hammonds, who had a personal relationship with most of you when they came in, I was kind of an unknown and an outsider. So we had to get to know each other. And, you look at this back wall of all the people that get to say they're a Bossier City council member. It's a small group, a couple dozen people of our history. And so this is something that we will share together, that we were able to serve this term together. And, as a newcomer, you really had two choices you could have made. You could have told me to sink or swim and figure it out, or you could have helped me so we can move forward in Bossier City. And I'm very thankful that each and every one of you, there a lot of times we sit up here and we make decisions and we may disagree, and that's what's kind of talked about. But what's not talked about, and the legacy piece that really should be remembered, because we'll talk about the roads and the bridges and Tinsley and the arena. These are big accomplishments that are tangible, but the accomplishment that's not tangible and your true legacy piece is that you poured into me, Councilman Hammonds, and Councilman Maggio. Nobody knows the hours that I've spent on the phone with Bubba Don over the last 4 years. The meetings I've had with Councilman Montgomery, where he's expressed and shared with me why the budget is the way it is. And Councilman Darby, Councilman Free, just the many phone calls and answering my questions when I was new. And so you really stepped up to the plate and left an impression on us as new council members and showed us the ropes. And that is a piece that we'll be able to share with the new council coming in. And that's the real part of your legacy that'll be felt for years, because they'll continue to share the lessons that you learned and the accomplishments that you achieved. So we thank you for that.
All right, so I'm going to stop it or pause it right there for a second. I got to say, see, this is why I could never be a politician, because I got to give Mr. Smith credit there. He's doing the nice guy routine and and all that. And, even a few minutes ago when we had Echols on, and you were questioning him about Landry and some things and all that, and even with Seabiscuit and all that and the whole insurance debacle. And he did a good job of, speaking well of them, even when he may have disagreed. See, I couldn't do that. I'd get up there, first of all, and say, look, it's been a rough road with you jackasses up here. And what y'all have done, we're glad to see you go. But I got to give Mr. Smith credit. He did a very eloquent job of keeping the peace, shall we say.
Yeah, and I'm getting some messages, and I'm being welcome to read them if I want to read them publicly, but there's just a few too many. Oh,
that sounds intriguing.
Too many words that I think regardless, when you gotta have some class. I mean, and were there mistakes made? Yeah, there were mistakes made by these people in some ways, but over the course of all of these years, at the same time, I would be a hypocrite if I didn't acknowledge and recognize that I personally remember a time where some of these people did fight some of the good fights, and I could, I'm being called a chicken shit now for not reading one particular thing. I'll read it. I don't care. I'm not, you calling my manhood, my man card here.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm not going to cuss it. But you got to give credit. I mean, I can tell you for a fact. I know for a fact, and I'll say one thing. And I'm not talking about today, but I'm talking about way years in the past. I know for a fact Bubba Don Williams was fighting the good fight. I know for a fact because I've seen him personally do it.
Yeah, I
And
don't think Bubba Don's a bad person at all. Montgomery, I have my qualms about deep down. Jeffrey, I just think is a jackass. But I don't think he's an evil or bad person deep down. Darby, I think, is in it just, of course, all for himself. So there's that.
yeah. I mean, so somebody sent me a message, and somebody said, "Y'all hold your ears. F those good old boys. Today was a great day, other than Chris having to be nice to them. F them."
Well, all right, hold on. So while we're here on this pause in the video, I need to, I would be remiss if I didn't let everybody know, if y'all haven't seen it yet, we are in the merchandise and apparel business now, trying to generate a little coffee money. And I've got a t-shirt. See, I was thinking July the 1st was going to be the big day. They were going to get shown the door. I was mistaken, but I just got to put this shirt up on the screen. See, that's the way I think. Right there.
I know, and I didn't have nothing to do with that, and I gotta say, when you sent that and you did that, I mean, y'all gotta understand. I mean, some politicians, y'all know this because we've had to cross this bridge before. I mean, Rex and I aren't always on the same page. We're not, and I don't say to Rex, don't do this or don't do that, and he doesn't say to me, don't do this and don't do that. We just fly by the seat of our pants. And me, I'm not going to go there. That's not me. I mean, look, I'm not acting like I'm some saint. I'm not some saint at all. But we won, and they're gone. We've achieved what we wanted to achieve, which is, to turn the page on Bossier governance. We want to make Bossier a better place. They all of those guys had their time. They've had arguably 30 something years, 90 something in totality. And
I'm glad you said that, because I want to do a little more self-promotion. This is another t-shirt. Got this biker dude to model a t-shirt. It says
that's not older me. That's an older me, right?
It could be. Got a little bit longer beard. But the shirt says, they fought it, we voted, 83-84 club established, 2025. And so, here's the logo for those of you that might be interested in something like this. We're going to start coming up with these, what I consider cool shirts and pieces of apparel and merchandise and all that. And, serves two purposes. Buy us some coffee money and make fun of the good old boys at the same time.
Well, look, we got to keep going through all of this. If y'all want to skip through Chris and Hambone, saying nice things about all these guys, but maybe speed through it a little fast. Let's get through it, or maybe jump ahead just a little bit before the next mark, and let Hammonds finish up what he's saying, because Montgomery actually spoke.
Oh, he did. Well, hold on just a second. Yeah, and I'll start playing that. Let me jump up to that part. Here we go. Oh, wait, let's slow this down. Hold on.
You go a little bit before that.
All right. Maybe about right there.
And the replying to the emails that somebody's garbage didn't get picked up or somebody's grass is too tall. The stuff that people don't realize that we do every single day, pretty much 12 hours a day until we go to sleep. We're still answering emails and phone calls. But thank each and every one of y'all very much.
My goodness, may I say something?
Yes, sir.
The 4 years was worth it to finally hear good words about us. I didn't think it would be, but it was worth
it. Oh, see, I was going to pretty much get off the Montgomery train, but not yet.
You got him. Look, y'all got it. That was funny.
That's funny. That actually was. That was pretty funny. not quite Zamboni funny and not quite point of order funny and all the other things that have come out of that end of the council's mouths, but still pretty funny.
Now look, they gave them some plaques, but then Tommy, if you jump up to the next mark, Tommy gets up there, and Tommy's going and giving them the keys to the city.
Well, I wonder if he invited them to the pineapple meeting. Sorry, folks, couldn't resist. All right,
wait a minute, is it the same set of keys?
Who knows? The keys to the city are the keys to the swingers club, according to Tommy, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, my. Well, Tommy gets up there, and Tommy makes some interesting points right out of the gate. And I couldn't believe he went there. But he said basically some of the things that we had been saying all along. But he said it in a nicer way. Yeah, I thought he was fixing to attack them.
All right, so I'm jumping to the 1946 mark. That's where you want me, right?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
Y'all too. Okay, Jeff Darby, 1989 to 1993, and re-elected in 1997 to 2025, totaling 32 years. Don Williams, 1997 to 2025, totaling 28 years. Jeff Free, 2013 to 2025, representing 12 years. David Montgomery, 2001 to 2005, total of 24 years. The City of Bossier City thanks you for your strong leadership. Together, these four men represent 96 years of service to our city. The City of Bossier City thanks you for your strong leadership. And Bossier City looked much different when you guys took office. But today, June 17th, 2025, here are just a few of the things our city can boast on because of your leadership. Now, this is just a very few things, okay, guys? The Riverboat Gaming, first-class arena, A-grade water, Class 1 fire department, outstanding police department with the crime stats to prove it. Tinsley Ballpark, which is a 5-star facility. A beautiful parkway, carriageway that connects our South District to our North District with no railroad tracks.
Overpass.
There were difficult decisions, conflicts, and criticisms, but no matter how big the problem, you guys faced them head on and led the way to solutions. Not always an easy road, but you stayed the course, and Bossier City is better because of each of you. Your love for our city is obvious, and your service undeniable. As the mayor, and more importantly, as a citizen of the great city of Bossier City.
So I gotta
thank you.
And look, I gotta do this real quick. So Paul, hold your thought right there because I got a notification that we're not on YouTube right now. I just got the notification from YouTube. It says, "Hi, Bossier Watch. It looks like Show 262 Ace Swingers didn't follow our community guidelines. We removed it from YouTube. What we found, we think your content violated our firearms policy. Content that shows someone live streaming while holding, handling, or transporting a firearm isn't allowed on YouTube. We removed the content from YouTube." So, let me see what review and take action. That's a bunch of crap. We weren't live streaming holding it. We were showing an ad. Come on, YouTube.
A
bunch of
political
commies.
ad. A political ad, no doubt.
Yeah, bunch of communists. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
Well, anyway, interestingly, and I know Sadow is all over this. So let me see here. I don't know if you enable live review. I'll take us to the next part where while you're dealing with that.
Yes, I did. You should be able to. Go ahead.
So we'll jump ahead, and they started giving the report. And it's interesting somebody says about water because, well, listen for yourself.
Oh, hold on a second. Let me do it. All right, go ahead.
Are the same as last month and 9 under budget. Page 5 is the water and sewer utility report. Net operating income after debt service for May 2025 has decreased 69% compared to prior year. Current year-to-date income has decreased 7% from prior year and is 28% over budget. On a 12-month basis,
Net income decreased 7%. I don't know where you at, Sadal. You paying attention? And I saw one of the apartment people sitting on the front row today. So, I don't know. Maybe maybe they were thinking that these guys were going to fix their problem on the last day as they're going out the door. I don't think so. I think that horse has left the barn already.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting because we haven't paid super close attention, to these little, I don't know what they actually call them, budget updates or fiscal updates or whatever. But there's some interesting information that's shared in some of these from time to time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And in retrospect, here's the thing, and y'all can be mad at me and you can say this, but when, if you go back in time, and you take each one of these things, and Sadal will disagree just a little bit, like the arena. I can remember when they were proposing the arena, we kind of thought it was a cool deal back then. Everybody in Bossier was kind of excited about it. And I don't really remember hearing a ton of people that were in opposition to it. The parkway on the riverfront, people thought, I'm not getting into the rights and the wrongs and the negotiations and the deals, on the backside, but the idea of Bossier having a parkway along the Red River, kind of like Clyde found, everybody liked that. Everybody thought that was a cool and a good deal. That was, everybody wanted it.
Right.
Golly, what do you call it? I remember they were giving out all the little magnets to build the Cyber Innovation Center thing, and everybody was riding around. It was a big effort, all in Bossier. Everybody was wanting to try to get Cyber Command out here, and Bossier kicked in a little money. Got the state on board with it. I think Billy Montgomery was a ramrod on that. When you sit back and you look at all of these things, David Crockett arenas do go broke repeatedly. But, back then during that time, I don't think there was anybody really, maybe Jeff Sadal would be the only person that was reading into the details and opposing some of this stuff. But I can tell you that the majority of citizens of Bossier they thought all of these were good ideas. They were in favor of them and they were supportive of it.
Yeah, and look, I got to say, back in the day, I just really, I think, just moved to Bossier, or I can't even remember what time frame it was, but I thought the boardwalk was a great idea. Now, granted, I didn't know the, intertwining of the city and the private enterprise there with the parking garage and some of the deals that went down with that and how much money it actually cost. But I thought the boardwalk itself was a good idea, and it was very popular back in the day, but it just seems to be withering on the vine, and therefore the parking garage that the city does own is withering on the vine as well. It's literally a wasted asset sitting there.
Yeah, on the surface, the ideas of these things were not ideas. Now look, we didn't all have the benefit of looking at the numbers. Again, I go back and I'm saying this, and I'm giving Jeff Sadal credit because he was paying attention to all of these things, looking at a lot of these numbers and these details back during that time frame. might have been one of the only people, him and Jim Wells. But from the standpoint of just a regular citizen, I mean, these were all things that people back then were supportive of and that they thought were neat ideas and moving Bossier forward. And I don't remember anybody thinking that Bossier wasn't moving in a positive direction. So, to be critical now, looking back on it, is, I mean, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't say that, I didn't think they would be neat ideas back then. I would be. Maybe if I'd have known some of the details, like Jeff said, I was going to be putting in here, like that I have the benefit of knowing today, I wouldn't have been so supportive, but I didn't know that then.
Well, and Sadow just put up a comment, says, fun fact, in 1995, Bossier City had only $60 million in debt and paying just over $1 million in service annually. A little bit of a change from how it is now. Cindy asks, aren't they putting pickleball in the old Nike store? I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of sad that they shut down that piano bar deal there. I had been to it one time. My wife and I went with some friends not too long ago, a couple of months ago, and it was actually pretty enjoyable. We had a few drinks. They played good music. 80s music when I was there, and we had a big time. I'm sorry they closed down, and not that that's the city's fault. I'm not saying that, but the city does own the parking garage and whatever else, and that the tax dollars paid for, and so you would think that they would be doing everything they could to try to. Well, I really don't know what they can do. I guess Tommy can invite that guy to the swingers meeting too.
Well, here's the thing. We all weren't able to be a part of the parties in the past and the decision makings of the past, and not everything in Bossier has always been transparent, but we're fixing to have a new council, and perhaps we're going to be able to have a glimpse into the past and some transparency on the decisions that have been made over the years that folks haven't had an opportunity. I can remember countless public information requests that we've sent. One in particular, I can tell you about the attorney fees on the Link Coleman deal, to which we got a big old middle finger like you put on your T-shirt there that you showed earlier. How that's possible, I don't know that they can do that, but they did it. I mean, they know I'm not going to sue to get the information, but it's just the point of making them refuse to give it to me. I think an opportunity is coming with these new councilmen, and we will see what they're going to do. The time is going to be real quick. I think, what is swearing in, July 1st?
July the 1st. And look, I want to let everybody know. So I think I can speak for both you and I, Duke, when I say we have high hopes for the new council members coming in. Look, it doesn't mean that we're probably going to agree with all the things that they do or say, and we'll talk about them too on the show, or they're welcome to come on. And I would encourage some of our council members to use the microphone a little more. And when you're going to vote a certain way, or if you do vote a certain way on something, whether you come on our podcast, do your own podcast, it doesn't matter. You have this wonderful resource called social media to actually get your message and your voice out very economically and very quickly. And so I would encourage some of our incoming freshman council persons to utilize our platform. Same invitation is open, just like it is to all politicians. You got something you want to talk about? Come on and join the show.
Okay, Ryan the Dong Haygood. No, the $500,000 monument is not neat. That wasn't what I was talking about. In fact, that portion of the parkway wasn't even a thought back when they built the main parkway. And the overpass to Benton, the most expensive road per mile in Louisiana. No. That's not what I'm talking about as neat as well. In fact, I'll go back for some of you and take a walk down memory lane. and maybe this can be a part of when the new council comes in, that this public information request won't get denied. A request for the original master plan that had the Walter O. Bigby carriageway tying into Shed Road, that if it hadn't been changed, wouldn't have caused the oldest road in Bossier City to have to be closed down, which it shouldn't have been closed in the first place. That was a how should I say that? I think that was a manipulation of Tommy I think we covered it in letting the contract before all the approvals were in. But they knew that, but Tommy didn't know that.
Well, and speaking of the carriageway, just the most recent deal, of course, parking lot gate. I mean, and again, not holding against Scott's Audio or Bossier Power Equipment or whatever. Don't hold it against them. Y'all got new parking lots out of the deal. But as we've seen, the Keystone cops down there at City Hall, is it because they were threatened with a lawsuit from the pile driving, or like they said in public, or was it, what Tommy said, that, oh, no, it was strictly an access issue, or was it something else? I mean, we've heard rumors that neither of those are true. So who knows what's going on down there at City Hall, but at least with Montgomery and those clowns gone, maybe things will get a little better and a little more transparent at the very least.
Maybe so. We'll see what happens come July 1st.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I think we should go to that meeting. I think I'm going to go.
What t-shirt you going to wear?
I don't know. I may come up with a design before then. See, that could be interesting.
Okay.
That could be interesting. I'm really not sure yet. Maybe I'll come up with one that's welcoming arms, welcoming our new benevolent overlords to the city council.
Or maybe your t-shirt will say, Bossier City, better than sex, swingers club member on the back.
Oh, we're going to have so much fun with that for such a long time.
I mean, that's as good as the Zamboni. No, it ain't as good as the Zamboni. I don't know. The Zamboni, I don't know.
Yeah, see, the difference there is that was off the cuff. Tommy Swinger's comment, I mean, it was a prepared statement. So a Zamboni comment wins in that regard.
Well, wait a minute. That's the conspiracy. Who wrote the speech for him?
Oh.
Did somebody set him up?
I don't know. I would argue it's one of the best speeches he's ever given since being mayor.
I'm done. I'm not saying anything else.
All right.
Seriously, I am done for tonight.
That is it. I am about to hit the finish button here in about 30 seconds. Like to thank, of course, everybody watching. Great conversation with Mr. Echols, and great video, even though YouTube cut us off, from Blake Miguez. We wish John Fleming well. That's going to be a good race. Folks, y'all know the drill. If you got any information, send it to us. bossierwatch at Proton Mail. If you want it to be anonymous, make your own Proton Mail account and send that over to us. It's been a little slow lately, but we do read through those. And hey, I'm going to keep plugging it. Buy some merchandise from us. We got to have some coffee money and keep the caffeine flowing. What say you, Mr. Lowry? Anything in closing? No pineapples from you?
No pineapples. Good night. I'm out of here. No more messages about Tommy. I'm not reading anything else. Stop.
See you later.
Good night.